Hello there, this is Jim the Keys Bartender, coming to you from a windy Florida Keys. It's probably windy, just like that old saying about April, out in like a lion, out like a lamb. It's actually like a lion here. We've had some terrific wind gusts here. Earlier this week we had what seemed like a small tornado strike around here. We're losing some trees and billboards and things like that. We actually had a clay pot two clay pots get knocked over. They're heavy, like 40, 50 pounds. So, that's kind of windy when a planter out front gets knocked. But, that's the weather. Yeah, I'm not complaining about it. It's nice that we have the breeze. It's bad for fishing, though. Very bad for fishing. Having the wind is rough on people that get seasick. So whenever it's windy here, it kind of hurts people's ability to ply their trade. And that's operating fishing boats and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's been really gusty. We haven't had gusty wind like that. Well, I think we're in, I don't even know if it's starting hurricane season, but I think that'll be coming up as soon as the waters warm up some. Well, welcome. I hope, that you're all doing well. We're rolling to the end of our school year, and then we got our eyes look to the summer. A lot of people have planned their vacations, and especially those people with kids in school. And we're doing the same. So we're the wife and daughter. They're going to be planning on going to Poland. There's a 50-50 shot of me going there because I have things I have to get taken care of here. One of them is the dreaded root canal. Yep, a root canal. I hate thinking about it. But I'm going to have it done. And it turns out I could probably save about $1,800, which is about $500 more than the cost of a ticket. And it would maybe behoove me to go over there, spend 2 days getting it fixed and visiting the family while I can. And people say, Jim, are you really considering going to within 50, 60 miles of a war zone? Is this a whimsical, idea? I said, no, we have family there. We have family there. And a lot of times when you don't, when you delay things, they're getting up there in age. When you delay things, you don't know if you're going to see them again. So it would behoove us to go and visit them, not suggesting that anything should happen to them. But, there's no time like the present. And that would be, a regret. A regret. Speaking of that about medical emergencies. Last week, I don't think I mentioned on the podcast. I don't know if it's me. I changed the title to Old Keys Bartender, the title of this episode to Old Keys Bartender. I think eventually, I don't know if I'm going to change the name of the show to Old Keys Bartender, because it would probably change the, impression people get and say, well, is this an old man, or is this a rendition of the Keys from the past? Meaning a bartender, the way people bartended 100 years ago. Key West, perhaps. Because I always pride myself that the listeners of this show are a little smarter. Not that I'm very smart, but I think you have to be smarter to decipher some of the cryptic things I say. Well, so last week, I'm bartending. It's now down here because of the time change. We've had daylight savings change. We have daylight till 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I think it was a Friday night a week ago. And I don't know the person I do know the person's first name. I'm not going to say the person's first name. But it was a woman in her late 60s, early 70s. I'm bartending, and one of my coworkers came up and said, "Jim, this woman's having." I was in the back. I was in the back getting something from her keg fridge, and they come out, and there's people running around. They said, "Something's going on, Jim. We need you. Will you go over to this table to check on this lady?" And I go over. This lady is losing consciousness. The only information I get is that there's an emergency, and they think it might be an allergic reaction. Allergic reaction, I knew there's not much I could do. I could just, for allergic reaction, you just call 911, or you get an EpiPen if someone has allergies and things like that. What I did see when I got there was a woman about the age, late 60s, early 70s, starting to lose consciousness and fading. Maybe blood pressure dropping. I wasn't exactly sure what was going on, but I did ask her. She was conscious when I was talking to her. She only lost consciousness, it seemed like, maybe 30 seconds as time went on. But when I saw her the first time, she felt a little clammy, and she started fading. Head started going down, and she was just kind of leaning forward. And someone said, "Just keep her up." They called 911, and whoever called 911, they said, "Keep her from falling asleep, keep her up." And it just seemed like a low blood sugar incident. Because the allergy, I asked her, "Can you breathe?" She said, "You can breathe." Now the people at the table, their first instinct was she's having an allergic reaction. And I guess because prior to people being called over, she maybe say she wasn't feeling so well. And everyone thinks when someone says something like this, it has to be something with the food. Something has to be going on with the food. And rarely, if you don't get sick or queasy or throat doesn't close up, that isn't symptomatic. Because I have my daughter has nut allergies, and I used to. We saw how that would happen when she would bite into something, maybe with pistachio in it or walnuts or something like that. You'd see how she started feeling, and her face would start getting red and things like that. So I'm sitting with her, I'm holding her up. I ran and got her a little glass of orange juice, hoping that she'd take a little sip of it, thinking that was more of a drop in blood sugar. And even though it was probably only 5-6 minutes before the arrival of the fire rescue, and they were awesome. It was two female members of our paramedic or fire department arrived, and they did a wonderful job picking up the lady. And I can say, sorry to say, we did not call to see. I do not know what happened to her, but I don't think anything. I think she was fine because we would have heard about it. It was a busy weekend. And people say, "Hey, Jim, why wouldn't you call up?" I said, well, it wouldn't be my job to call up because there was a small concern that it may feel as if there was a liability occurring if people call to see how they're doing instead of just being neighborly or friendly. And that is a shame that we're in a point of society where people have to be concerned about that. But I've been present for a couple times. I had a couple people choking. Two people I had to intervene for choking. One was at the airport about 7 years ago, I think it was, at the airport. And another one was at the restaurant I was at previous. I haven't had anybody choke for years. And if you think about teaching the Heimlich maneuvers, you think of working in a restaurant where you can have like anywhere 100 people a night, you figure I would have been around a choking incident again. But that, I guess, that occurs more at a steakhouse, right? A choking at a steakhouse, because that's one of the things people try to swallow whole, big chunk of that. And I'm really surprised that I'm not there all the time. I don't enjoy being the first person on the scene of an emergency. I always have this feeling, I said, there's got to be, there's just a law of average. There has to be someone with a significant amount of experience when it comes to emergencies other than me. I hope for it. But a lot of times, it's me. It seems like I show up and people come over, and then someone shows up like, oh, I'm a nurse. And I said, well, I'll help you. You go in the forefront. I know there's a lot of medical people down here, or people with medical training, and they don't volunteer a lot of times because maybe they worry about their liability too. So I hope that is not the case. That would be scary on two levels. One is me being the one that's most qualified in an area where there's 30 people. And I have to say that is not the kind of world I really want to live in, where the average out of 30 people, I'm the one. Even though I do, at the place I work part-time, we're required every 3 months to do a modicum of breathing, rescue breathing. We do rescue breathing certification every 3 months, and we use these mannequins, an adult mannequin and a baby mannequin, and we do chest compressions and air, where no one does that breathing in the mouth anymore. But I guess here, because I don't have the one, I'd have to breathe if something happened. I'd have to breathe in the mouth, and I'd have to be comfortable with that. But I guess I would, depending on the situation. I don't know. I'd like to think the first thing I would do would just do the breathing. And I've done it, the training. So they've been doing that about 4 years, where every other year you had to do, they used to have those in-person 2-hour classes. Now we do it on computer, and we use the mannequins, and we do it every 3 months. And that is to get you so, I guess, acclimated to doing those things that it becomes second nature. And I guess when I come over, when someone calls me over, I'm looking and they can say, "Are you serious? I'm the person you're going to call for an emergency?" Well, I did, and you know what? I guess maybe we will find. I don't know if I can call now, because if I call the emergency room, I think they went to the one I worked, the emergency room at the hospital I worked, but I don't think they would necessarily tell me what happened, and they may not remember because it was a week later. Boy, Jim, that's a great story, isn't it? You really left a lot of holes in that one. Let's get back to that. What I spoke to you on a previous episode, the last episode, about, for years I said I didn't want to go to iPhones, and I had a couple. Since smartphones came out, I started using Android. I started with Samsung, and then I started getting cheap because I didn't want to have to get a contract, and getting a contract to one of the big cell phone carriers is tantamount to signing a contract, even though you say no contract, because you're paying them off. And you get an $1,100 phone, and then people say, well, why don't you get insurance because your phone's so expensive? So I go, well, why don't I just get a less expensive phone? Well, then you can't get all the features. I don't want all the features necessarily. But I finally broke down because of the reception in my house and not getting any satisfaction in being able to fix it. And I bought an iPhone. And within a couple hours, I got it up running. Well, yesterday, right around noon, I had eaten I'd made a couple days before, I had made stuffed shells, and I made extra stuffed Italian, with ricotta and Parmesan shells. But I had this big tray, and I ate it after I came back from the gym. It was my big workout day, and I didn't sleep well the night before. There is a reasoning behind this. So I decided to eat a big pasta dinner when I got back home because I didn't eat any breakfast. And I said, I'll get all my calories in. And then I'll take the nap because I didn't sleep well. I needed 2 hours sleep. So I just finished down. I sat down reclined on the couch, put on some light music, and I was going to set my phone to silent. And I noticed it said no SIM card. Now, the phone had worked for 3 days or 2.5 days. And actually 3 days. And I knew that there's a SIM card in it, but I took it in, took a look at it, and there was a SIM card. No one was playing a joke. I'm thinking, either the SIM card failed or something happened with my carrier or something else. And it turned out to be something else. What I did was I kept my old phone. I took the SIM card out, put it in my put it into my Android, and I got service, or the limited amount of service that I had that I get in my house anyway. But it recognized the SIM card. So I knew the SIM card worked. Now the question was, does it only not work in an iPhone, which I know that isn't true because it worked for 2.5 days and it's either working. It's like a switch. It's either on or off. So I'm thinking my house, it can't be the carrier now because it worked on my Android phone. And it can't be the SIM card. So I decided to do the next best thing I could do is go to the AT&T store they have in town. And I had a young fellow look at it, and he said it could be the card could be done. Because the 5G could have, it may not be a 5G card. And I said 5G card. I didn't know that cards were 5G. I thought phones were 5G. I thought the SIM card was like a unique identifier for it, which it is. And he put it into an iPhone, and the iPhone picked up the SIM card. So we know it wasn't iPhones. And they put it back in, and it still didn't recognize it. And he looked at it, where'd you get this phone? I told him I ordered it. He goes, oh, well, you should. And then I knew exactly what I was going to do then. So I went home, and immediately, the funny thing about it is, with Amazon, I'm not going to go through. Most of you probably know how to return something on Amazon. So I did printed out a label, and there's a UPS store right next to the place it was, but I had to go and get the box and everything and clean it up. Make it like new, and get the cords and the charging cable and put it back in the box it came in with a label, with an insert in the box to tell people when they get there that this is what I'm returning, and put on a label. So I went to UPS, and by the time I returned that, I about 10-15 minutes later went back on the site and I ordered another phone before getting my refund. And don't you know, within a half hour of ordering that phone, one phone shipped, which is for down here in the Keys is unusual. We don't expect things to be so quick, but I didn't get here yet, right? So I'm looking at, I go and look at the tracking, and they say, oh, it's shipping from Miami. And it says I'm going to get it up until like a week from today, a Friday. And I said, it was in Miami. I'll probably get this tomorrow. Well, I checked today, and the iPhone went from two places. It went to, at least two things, received by carrier, left carrier facility, and then winds up in Orlando. So I guess whoever's shipping it, that's their hub. Orlando's their hub, so they're shipping it from Miami to Orlando and then back down to Miami, or Hialeah to be exact, and then back down here. And I realize that it's kind of interesting. It's still getting some accessories. I got one accessory arrived yesterday for the phone I had sent back, but since I ordered another phone, the accessory is going to work, screen and a case and all that stuff to protect it. And I'm not one, I don't buy insurance, but I figure if I'm going to buy something that's under $500, $600, this one was significantly less than that, but it's an iPhone, not a super old iPhone. It's a 5G and all that stuff, but I was getting the accessories, and one of the accessories said it was delivered, and I looked and asked the wife, I said, was there anything delivered when I was at work yesterday? And she goes, no. But it says there was a notification on Amazon on our Alexa saying that we had a delivery. So I had to go and check it out. And what happens here is there's a number down the street where my address, and the person they're only one number off. and it's a 5 and they're a 6. And I look at it, it always happens with the person down the street. And the way they print the labels and stuff like that, you should definitely put the address, the street address, a little larger. Because that's where you're delivering it. And the name, you can do that. I mean, the identifying information for most people, and I can tell you as an old Keys bartender that, yeah, I need my glasses to see that. So when I went home after I filed that I didn't get the delivery, and then I go, wait a second, I might as well go and check. And I went down to knock on the door, and as I'm knocking on the door, I look to the left of the person's door, and there's an envelope sitting there. And it has my name on it and the address, and I think, oh, there's the case. So I knocked on the door anyway and told him, I said, listen, I just wanted to tell you, I didn't want to take something off your porch and not tell you. And she goes, yeah, I was going to deliver it today to you. And I said, oh, you don't have to do that. I'm here. So there I go. And then once I go back and look at the circuitous, I think, how do you say, circuitous? But the circuit of traveling that went on for this $8 case or $11 case, it went to 19, there were 19 different unique settings, like received, transferred, received, transfer, in 5 different states. I mean, wherever it was delivered from it was from like Southern California, and it went from there to New Mexico, and then to Alabama and South Carolina, and then from South Carolina down to Florida, and there was 19 different things. It was the most I've ever seen. I've ordered things from overseas, and I haven't seen so many delivered. And it just makes me think about logistics, how things get around. FedEx, UPS, what's the other ones? UPS, FedEx, the post office. Everyone thinks that when you get something delivered and you order something from Seattle, they think Seattle, the Key Largo, let's say down here. But no, it goes from Seattle to the hub nearby, and then it goes to a regional center, and a regional center will go to another regional center, I think. You know, they'll have like this mail goes, and that's the way parcels are delivered. And we're always, even though you know that happens, you think, boy, that is a lot of places to stop for this little piece of thing, this object. So my transition from Android, yes, and I ordered exactly the same phone, and when I ordered the exact same phone, and I still didn't get my refund back yet, because they're going to wait for, the person that sent it's going to have to refund it, or Amazon's going to refund it. I don't know who does it, but to my account, I ordered the same exact one, and I get a phone call, or no, I get a message, please call us or something, and they were concerned because the same phone was being ordered after I returned it without any stipulation, not as a refund, and I couldn't find an exchange button on Amazon, which I would have done. I would have gladly done an exchange button. Here, I'll send this one and this one. I think you have to get a refund, and then you get to buy one, and that's the only way you could do it, because there could be too many cute things that occur, people ripping off the system. So I call up, and it was a customer service person. It's very unusual. I never spoke to anybody from Amazon before, but I guess because they thought it was unusual activity. Did you order this phone? I said, yes. And we have a message here that you had a problem. It said something about the SIM tray, that there was a failure on the SIM card reader. And I said, that was more of a guess because of the problem and the investigations of what occurred when I went to the iPhone store, to the AT&T store. And they go, and you ordered the same phone, aren't you? And the person goes, do you think that it's going to occur again? And I said, well, you sold probably close to 100 million of these phones. That would be really unusual. Or, 50 million of these phones that, the SIM card fails on all those phones without hearing about a recall. And the person, I said, it's just, I don't think if there's anything wrong with the phone, it won't be the same thing. And they said, oh, you're expecting something to be wrong. Hey, listen, if it works, it works. And I said, listen, this is all I'm willing to spend. I spend a lot of time on the phone with my phone carrier. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the phone talking about my phone choice. So I said, thank you. It is me. I do want the phone. And goodbye. So yeah, the ongoing switch from Android to iPhone, which is inclusive now because I want to use the iPhone so I can use trading reviews, so I can get some more reviews. And if you're listening, please review the show on iTunes or whatever service you listen to the show on. Okay. I'm going to get back to the bartending stuff. What comes to mind sometimes when I'm at work, and I always had a little problem with the drink menu, because the drink menu lists about 12, 14 drinks. And some of the drinks I think are good. Some of them are kind of I don't really try. They sound blah. It's things I wouldn't drink. Some of them are too sweet. Some of them are this and that. I am not a drinker now. But when people ask for a drink menu, I hand them the drink menu and I said, I can make a lot more than these. So if you tell me what you'd like, I can maybe suggest something. And they just go, no, look at the drink menu. They don't, no, I don't really want to talk to you. Just give me the drink menu. So I give them the drink menu. So I get the impression when someone asks for the drink menu, I say, boy, this person does not have a drinking problem. Or unlikely to have a drinking problem because the person with a drinking problem would just tell you what they want. Or if a person who only drinks one thing, which I could be found, you could probably have a drinking problem if you only drink one thing and you won't drink something else if you have access to it all the time. But I always thought the drinking problem, the more the sign of a drinking problem is like, I'll drink whatever you got. Wine, beer, liquor, moonshine, sterno, things like that. So I always think, I don't know why. And I hand over the drink menu, and people go, oh, what should I have? This one or that one? What should I have? I said, well, this one's a little sweeter like that. Well, I don't like it too sweet. I don't like it too sour. I said, oh, one thing you should have this one on the menu, or I can make you something else. And the person still says, oh, it's like I can screw up the drinks on the menu, or you could tell me exactly the kind of thing you want to have. It's always, I got to probably rephrase what I'm saying. I have to think about that. What exactly do I want to get from that interaction from somebody? And it's probably the interaction is, the ideal one was go, oh, well, what I like is that I do like cherry, and I don't like it really sweet. I don't like it sour. I don't like too much soda. I'm concerned about my sugar intake. And then I go, oh, now I get an idea of what you want. Do you want a martini or a cocktail? And then we'll leave it at that. Okay, I'm going to be wrapping up soon, but also today I went to the gym. I taught my class, and invariably for some people, and I do it as much as anybody, I comment on how people, oh, you're looking good, you're looking blah, blah. And it's flattering. I'm not comfortable with flattery from people. But I've been working out very hard, I have to say, the last year. And I really picked it up over the last 7 months. And at my age, 58, I've been doing it. I always tell people and say, why do you work out so hard? What are you doing? What are you training for? And I'm training for old age. I'm working. I want to make sure that I'm able to work. I make sure, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and I want to be optimum condition. I mean, I guess I should have done this when I was single. And I did kind of do it when I was single. I did spend a lot of time, but I did a lot of that. I worked out my motives were to stay busy, to get rid of my extra energy, because I wasn't hanging around at bars anymore. I might as well hang a couple hours at the gym. And I figure if I can remake myself into someone who was in decent physical condition, it'll just add another thing to make me more palatable to the fairer sex. And that's what I did. And part of it's ego. I want to be in as good a shape as possible. I like, I like to look my best. But there is a cost for that. There's pain, there's soreness, there's efforts. But the benefit for it, besides the obvious one for the way it looks, is the mental thing, having that energy, me working out. I enjoy it. I really, at the end of the day, there's some kind of meditative experience to working out. And I have, like today, I normally don't lift, and I went in and lifted for a while, and then I did my spin class, and I'm trying to get back in the thing. When I was first went in the Navy, I could do maybe, at my best, maybe 30 pull-ups. Now remember, I'm 6'4", and I was thin, so I was able to do it. But my body, the rest of my body got bigger. I mean, heavier. So maybe it went in, I was around 178, 6'4", 178, 180 when I was a freshman in college. And that was in pretty good shape. Maybe 180. I went up to 180 something, and then I think I was one, and then I just cruised through the 180s. Up to 190. But once I got to 230, there were no chin-ups for me. There really wasn't. I wasn't being able to pull down. And I'm saying, you know what? I would like to get back into that where I can do. Right now I could do about 6. I know no matter how. I look like I'm in really good shape, but I can only do 6 pull-ups, unaided pull-ups. I got a weight assistant once. And that was my main thing. I want to get my core training and do the pull-ups. And that's for me. That's my goal. It is not to win a marathon. It is not to win a fitness competition or anything like that. It's to be able to do pull-ups. And you got to set goals for yourself. And manageable goals. Reasonable goals. I mean, I listen to people at the gym, and there's one guy saying they were doing deadlifts of 700 pounds of this one 16, 17-year-old kid at the gym. And I go, okay, well, and I wanted to chime in and say, well, what's his goal? To lift as much weight as he can? Because I know people that deadlift a lot, and they end up getting shoulder issues and back issues and things like that. So I go, oh, okay. And powerlifting is good for confidence and things like that. But, they got machines for lifting 700 pounds. And it will serve you no good if you destroy your back and your shoulder. You'll go from lifting 700 pounds to having a problem lifting 20 pounds if you're not careful. I got people that come to my gym that I see when they get knee replacement, hip replacement, stuff like that. And they're avid exercisers. There's avid exercisers. So there's a cost benefit to this. If you run every day and you start getting up there in 50s and 60s, you're going to start feeling in your hips and your knees and your feet. And there's cartilage, and you can lose the little cartilage and things like that. There's a lot of trauma that occurs from running. And a younger body repairs itself better, an older body not so well. So I always think of that. I said, listen, once the costs become too high, I got to change that. And I see people, what happens when you're in your 50s and 60s sometimes, you just, you let things go. And then they get to a state, they think, man, if I was going to live this long, I would have taken care of myself better. I would have taken care of myself if I knew I would be coughing every morning. I don't think, if someone said, Jim, if you don't smoke that cigarette, if you smoke that cigarette and then go out and go drinking and smoke 3 more packs of cigarette, and you do that day after day after day, when you're in your 50s, you're going to wake up in the morning, you're going to cough and do this, and you're going to have lung issues. I would not have smoked. When I had smoked. Now, I don't know if I could say the same about alcohol because I haven't seen the repercussions of that right now, but I'm sure there are things that I'm going to pay for later on for the heavy ingestion of alcohol all those years. But the benefits, were like I get to hang out, sometimes have a good time, sometimes get in trouble. I guess not getting in trouble is the cost. And I could honestly say it's kind of a wash for me. But towards the end, it wasn't working for me. That's the reason why I don't do it right now. But that's how I get my cost-benefit things. What I should be eating, I'm going to watch my sugar intake because I don't want to. I have a tendency to get my blood sugar goes up way high. I just got to reduce the amount of sugar I take. I am not diabetic, but I do get that low blood sugar in the middle of the day when I'm waiting for the carbs to kick in sometimes. And I'm making the motions for it like I'm with my hand. Saying I'm waiting for the carbs to kick in, and when I'm waiting for the carbs to get in, I get sleepy. So it's all cost benefits for me, and I'm trying to do the best to be the best. Be the best Jim. Not be the best bartender or the best guy in the room. To be the best I can be. So if you come in and say, hey, Jim, it really looks like you're working hard to say, why are you doing that? And I said, I don't know how long I can maintain that high level. It's really hard to maintain a high level. And it's kind of, what would you call it? To work out hard and get in good shape. It's really hard to maintain that. It takes a lot of commitment. I mean, someone who's in the business for that, I can see that. Even actors that play action heroes, when they're not doing a movie, a lot of those guys just get into regular dad body shape. So it really takes commitment. But I always think about the meditative reasons, the time I need, the discipline I need, and to be able to do things at work that I want to be able to do easily and not have a difficulty moving cases of liquor. I mean, I don't have to be strong to throw anybody out. I haven't had to throw anybody out in a long time. In the longest time. Usually the age kind of lends itself to being... People are a little more respectful to you if you're respectful to them, and you can handle it better. And so I don't have to do this to be. I'm not the bouncer at the place. It may look like I can be, but I'm not. Well, and I haven't had to be. Well, I'm done talking about that. Let's finish up with the Ukraine and it looks like it's grinding on and on and on in the Ukraine. They're holding on well, and it looks like the Russians may be looking. A Russian general said that they might be going after all of South Ukraine, the southern part of Ukraine, and the eastern and southern part, the bigger chunk. And it's just amazing that someone would commit that amount of forces for that side. It's a country. Russia has about a little more than half the population of the United States, if that. And to be able to absorb the amount of casualties it has absorbed that we haven't absorbed since the Vietnam War. And the Vietnam War was over, it was over 10 years when they started putting in advisors in and things like that, and much larger forces. I mean, they're going to, in the end of the year, it would appear that if the Russians keep on losing at this rate, they will have more deaths in Ukraine than we had in the Vietnam War for a country that's half our size. I can't imagine that being untenable. I'm sorry for the families that losing it. I'm sorry for the everyday Russians. But if you don't get your shit together and get rid of the guy that's your leader, then I don't know what to say. And because of his bad decisions, other people are made to suffer. You're suffering. You might be suffering because you have a bad leader. I mean, we've dealt with that ourselves here. I mean, everybody has their opinion. Some people think the current president is. I have a feeling that the one before this president was much worse. Was much worse. And that's my belief. And a lot of other people believe that too. But, when you're causing suffering for people of another country, and it's innumerable suffering, thousands, it could be tens of thousands of civilians have been killed. And it could be by design, causing as much suffering as possible to get them to acquiesce. But we're hoping that that doesn't happen. I know to spend entirely too much. I know my numbers have gone down because of that. I'm not as concerned about that. Next week I may have a little surprise for you on Tuesday. But we'll just wait until then because we know how things change. And I've made promises before and I didn't keep them, and I apologize for that. Well, I'd like to thank you, and I hope you have a great weekend. I'll talk to you later. Bye.